Hey, thanks a lot. I'm Christina's colleague on the El Camino board, and it's my privilege to give perhaps a little more extensive introduction of this really distinguished group of speakers that we have. Um, Artificial intelligence seems to be always in the news today. Whether the topic is education, business, or national defense, AI promises to play an ever more prominent role. Those of us with an interest in insurance sense that its impact on our field will be important as well. We're fortunate to have the four individuals that Christina mentioned with us today to guide us through this exciting subject. I'll introduce each of them. If you have questions, please put them into the chat when we'll address your questions after the last speaker has presented. Our first speaker, as was mentioned, is Girish Madgal of Travelers Insurance. Girish will address the current and near-term impact that artificial intelligence is having in insurance. Girish is Senior Vice President, Data Science, Automation, and AI at Travelers. Since joining the company in 2020, Girish has led enterprise teams that work across the business to develop, deploy, and scale innovative automation and AI solutions. And prior to joining Travelers, Girish spent his career in a variety of industries, such as aerospace, energy, and transportation, where he deployed AI, optimization, and Internet of Things models at scale on flight systems, power plants, and in trucking. Girish holds a PhD in aeronautics and astronautics from Purdue University with a specialization in stochastic modeling and optimization. He's based in Atlanta, Georgia. Just to keep me out of this as much as possible, I'm going to introduce the three other speakers as well, and then allow you to hear what you are here for. Insurance is a regulated industry, and to no one's surprise, artificial intelligence creates challenges for regulators. We're fortunate to have the NAIC's principal advisor on artificial intelligence, Scott Sobel, as the speaker who will follow Garish. Scott is a fellow of the Casualty Actuarial Society, a member of the American Academy of Actuaries, a certified specialist in predictive analytics from CAS, that's the Casualty Actuarial Society, and holds a master's degree in predictive analytics from Northwestern University. Scott's role at the NAIC is to help regulators better understand and more effectively regulate the use of AI by insurance companies. Many of the articles that those of us read on artificial intelligence discuss the impact it is likely to have on employment. And since most of us, except maybe those of us with a lot of gray hair, are critically worried about the topic of employment, it's the final topic that our panel will discuss today. We have two distinguished labor economists from Cal State University Northridge as our guides. Dr. Leah Marsal lives in Thousand Oaks with her husband and 15-year-old twins. She has a PhD in economics from the University of Wisconsin at Madison. She currently teaches business strategy at CSUN. Her past research examines the impact of federal retraining programs on trade displaced workers. Dr. Francisco Beltran Silva is Leah's colleague on the CSUN economics faculty. Francisco holds a PhD in economics from the Andrew Young School of Public Policy at Georgia State University. He obtained his undergraduate degree in economics at ITAM. He previously worked for Mexico's Ministry of Finance, assessing the impact of fiscal policies. Prior to that, he was Evercore Partners Mexico, a major investment bank. With a strong background in microapplied economics, Francisco's research agenda focuses on the intersection of public policy and health outcomes. Clearly, with our interest in artificial intelligence, we couldn't be better served by the panel that's assembled. Girish, if you'd like to begin, please do.
Fantastic. Thank you for that introduction. Let me just share my screen here. Yep, that's the one. Let's see if it's sharing the right screen. Yep, it is. And I did not know two of my panelists were from the Big Ten, and one of them was from the state of Georgia. So this is it's a delightful surprise. Okay, so I'll go first. I want to thank you for having me here. I'm Girish Modgil, and I'm the Enterprise AI Leader at Travelers Insurance. Huge honor to be invited and share the time with my esteemed panelists. Just moving on. Let's see. Oh, am I sharing this slide? Yep. Okay, cool. The insurance landscape is at an inflection point. This picture depicts there are many shifts happening. As Ed mentioned in his introduction, the macroeconomic uncertainties, destabilization due to climate change, technology. There's also risks from the cyber area, if, evolving customer expectations and regulations. All aspects of insurance are undergoing a transformation. From technology to claims, from operations to underwriting, all while the workforce is evolving and the cyber risks are increasing in number and the CAT events continue to occur at a record pace. It definitely gives you a reason to ponder for sure. And while many of these are beyond one's control, I want to focus on why I'm here today. So I'm going to share some content and I'll quickly walk you through some of the interesting use cases that we're pursuing at Travelers through AI and show you how we aim to improve customer service and productivity through the use of AI. So if you see this slide, I want to approach this topic top down and then bottom up on how we're dealing with AI at Travelers. As this slide shows, I want to talk about the responsible AI framework with its 4 pillars, going from left to right: people-centric, fair, responsible, and trustworthy. The framework, along with our responsible business practices, are published externally to Travelers on our sustainability page. So when time permits, you can check it out. Just do a Google search, Travelers Responsible AI, and it'll take you there. So when you think about AI and its use at Travelers, we're thinking about doing so with the idea that our reputation is our most valuable asset. And in doing so, we aim to include our customers, communities, and our employees. So these 4 pillars and the 12 underlying principles serve as a guiding light for how we employ AI at Travelers. This, combined with our model risk management framework and our Travelers modeling guidelines, allow us to have a robust set of guardrails for the entire community. So let's talk about harnessing the power of AI through aerial imagery and geospatial capabilities first. So I'll show you 3 examples, and just depending on time, we'll have examples at the back end of generative AI if time permits. But I'll show you 3 examples. There's roof shape AI, there's wildfire loss AI, and then there's assessing damage through wind by applying AI. So I'll take you through each of these very quickly. So on this slide, so we're talking about roof shape here. So we use geospatial imagery and AI to improve our customer and agent experience by automatically identifying personal property roof shape when a customer calls in. This has the immediate effect, obviously, of a better customer experience. It becomes frictionless. The customer has been typically asked, explain the shape of your roof. Is it triangular? Is it flat? Hip, gable? A lot of people don't know those terms. So it allows the customer service rep to move on to other important questions. Of course, having said all of that, this AI inferencing and tooling can have the added advantage of improving data quality for us. Moving on to the next slide. As I showed in the preview, my next 2 slides are about AI assistance for CAT events. In this slide, I'm highlighting how AI is helping our claims teams understand and classify wildfire damage. When a CAT event occurs, we work with our geospatial imagery provider, who can fly planes over the impacted area and collect post-event imagery. Then we use that imagery to identify insured locations with significant damage. Sometimes it happens that even before the evacuations are lifted, we are able to identify who's been impacted, and thereby we're able to hand over the case to the claims rep or to connect with the customer directly. The AI classification on this page that's being shown identifies properties that survived or experienced a total loss. We are running the analysis with a pretty quick turnaround so that our claim teams can focus on the task on hand of helping our customers in need. So continuing on this theme, the slide here shows the wind damage assessments that were conducted through geospatial imagery and AI to assess damage to individual property. So we are also, as I described in the previous slide, are able to leverage gray sky imagery along with our geospatial services and custom AI models, along with custom dashboards to deliver insights to our claim reps in the front lines to assist our customers in their time of need. And this is done very, very quickly in the same manner that I described for the wildfire. All right, I'll move on to the next topic, which is Gen AI. So I don't, as the enterprise lead at Travelers, I don't go to any meeting without it coming up on how we're trying to use and employ Gen AI. It's everybody's favorite topic, but I'd like to put a different spin on it, in specific, how it's impacting fraud. So about 5 to 15 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, it was very rare and hard to manipulate a picture. So insurers were sending adjusters out all the time to look at damaged vehicles and properties. We didn't have photo submissions from the insureds. Then as insurers began to shift to more virtual assessments of damage, we opened up the possibility of being able to submit a photo through your phone. And then we started seeing the earlier signs of crude photo manipulation. So if you think of this as someone taking a picture and loading it into Photoshop and manipulating pixels or areas of pixels to make it look like the damage had happened. A lot of these early attempts were easy to spot with the human eye if the claim professional actually paid attention to it and spent some time on it. But now we are in the era of Gen AI, and it's gotten a lot harder to detect any of these manipulations. So on the left is a property example where you can upload a picture and pan over a portion of the photo, and then with a brush on your computer, you can either write a sentence about installing damage, and then if you highlight the pixels where you want the photo to be manipulated for damage, it can be done instantly, and it'll be done in a really good way. On the right, if you don't have a medical degree, on a case for workers' comp, this opens up a whole new area of opportunity for fraudsters. So back in the day, it was very hard to fake an MRI, but now you can actually do this with Gen AI. And it's very easy to get fooled if you don't have the background in the medical domain. All right. Moving on to the more positive aspects of Gen AI, I think the low-hanging fruit for Gen AI is the idea of a virtual assistant for information retrieval tasks. This is exactly what ChatGPT is. You can ask it a question, it provides an answer, but in the instance of ChatGPT, it's not necessarily an expert on insurance or on the details of a particular company's insurance practices. So the idea of using this technology for information retrieval is that you could, if you simply take a question and then use mathematics to encode it into a high-dimensional vector, and then search a database of high-dimensional vectors representing your knowledge base, you've got all of your documents that are represented as high-dimensional vectors, and you have a question, and you find the similarity, you can retrieve information in that way and get an answer rather quickly. So it becomes an internal ChatGPT tool to retrieve information. And this idea in the AI space, and AI is full of jargon, by the way, but and the idea in the AI space is called RAG. So you retrieve, you augment the answer, and then you create or generate the answer, RAG, RAG. And it's a huge leap forward for these assistants. Moving on to the next one. So this is another good case for the application of Gen AI. So insurers are exploring with all the data around structured, unstructured, internal data, third-party data, all the information stored in different location and displayed for our employees on different screens. So one of the superpowers of generative AI and large language models is its ability to take on a bunch of information and summarize it and send it back in a concise way with just the right level of detail. So imagine you're a claim professional with hundreds of claims in your inventory. It's hard to keep all the details on each claim straight without going back and sifting through all this information. With Gen AI, we can make this process efficient and present a quick summary of the most important details. So a claim professional is off and running and in much less time. Even better, if a file is shifted from one claim professional to another, the new claim professional can get quickly up to speed without having to look at the whole file. So I think this gives you a flavor of how we've applied AI for imagery, how we're looking at AI in the era of Gen AI and large language models. So at this point, I've concluded my talk, and we have a Q&A at the end. So I look forward to some of the questions, and I'm going to pass the baton over to Scott Sobel, who's the advisor to the NAIC on artificial intelligence. Scott?
There we go. I guess it helps to turn off my mute. Hopefully you can hear me now. Good, good. Let me share my screen. And thank you very much, Girish. That was great information to hear. We love hearing about specific use cases with pictures on exactly how AI is being used. I think it's very enlightening, very informative. So let me share my screen. Give me a moment. Okay. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the screen. Super, great, great. Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for inviting me to the CPCU all day seminar. And hopefully I can give you some good information on what we're doing here at the NAIC in taking steps towards helping to regulate AI for responsible use in the insurance industry, kind of what we've been doing, what we're up to now this year, what we're looking forward to doing soon, and I'll conclude by talking a bit about the challenges of regulating AI. So to start off with, just advance to the next slide here. Great. In August 14th of 2020, the NAIC adopted the principles of artificial intelligence. And so I've actually been at the NAIC for a little over a year and a half now. So this is a little bit before my time. I'm not a long-termer just yet at the NAIC, still fairly newcomer. But this principles of artificial intelligence document was intended to establish consistent, high-level guiding principles for insurance entities, which insurance companies, of course, but that includes advisory organizations as well, on the use of AI in insurance. These principles were only meant as a guidance, very high-level document, I think maybe 4 pages, pretty high level, not established. It doesn't establish any law or impose any legal obligations, but just establishes general expectations on the use of AI in insurance. The principles was prepared to help regulators address insurance-specific AI applications, recognizing that the level of oversight will vary based on the risk and impact on customers. So recognizing that there's going to be various degree of risk, and we want to recognize that and develop procedures just according to the level of risk. It recommends that insurance companies develop their AI systems that emphasize 5 principles. So one is fairness and ethical use of AI. Second is accountability, right? So referring to the assigning responsibility that the use of AI complies with legal requirements. Compliance with laws and regulations, of course, a major one, of course. Transparency, and that the development of AI systems should be secure, safe, and robust, meaning there should be a systematic and continuous risk management of AI systems. So not just the development, not just implementation, but continuous monitoring as well. Then following up from the model bulletin, or from the principles, the NAIC drafted a model bulletin on the use of AI by insurance companies, and many of you, I see Girish nodding his head, have been aware of this. This is back in, or was adopted by the NAIC in December of last year, so fairly recent. And we exposed this document during the drafting process to several rounds of review and comments by consumer reps and trade organizations, kind of get their feedback to help us tailor the language, maybe cut out some paragraphs that were too burdensome, bring in different wording or bring in different paragraphs, change the wording a little bit. So we really wanted to get the perspectives of different viewpoints in the industry. We wanted it to be effective, but also represent the concerns and not be too burdensome as well. So it's hard to strike that balance. So like I mentioned, it was adopted last year, December, after incorporating the comments we received. It is principles-based and establishes guidelines and expectations to ensure responsible development and use by insurance companies that aligns with the principles of AI that the NAIC drafted back in 2020. So the three main purposes of this bulletin are to remind insurers that overall the use of AI to make or support decisions by insurance companies must comply with regulatory standards, right? Then number two, to set forth Department of Insurance expectations on how how insurers will govern the use of AI. Girish, you mentioned the governance program at Travelers. That's in alignment, right? Super, that sort of action there, fantastic. And then third, to advise insurers of information the department may request during an investigation or examination. If they go in and say, all right, let's take a look at your use of AI. What documentation can you provide? What AI governance program do you have? That sort of information there. And the NAIC, well, really insurance regulators want to see that you've established an effective governance program that's aware of the risks, signs accountability, developing a safe, secure, and robust system, and so forth, aligning with the AI Act principles. So the bulletin is interpretive, meaning that it's not binding, but serves as just a model draft for the states to choose to adopt verbatim or with modifications as they see fit according to their specific state concerns. So as far as structure of the bulletin, it's divided into 4 sections. And I'll just briefly go into them. If you read the bulletin, it's about 9 or 10 pages. This is just an overall of review of the structure on it. And I'd be glad to send you a link to our website where you can download the bulletin if you haven't already. But so section 1 is the introduction, background, and legislative authority. An important point here is to state upfront that the NAIC acknowledges the benefits of AI and does not want to stifle innovation, but at the same time, we recognize there can be risks of using AI, and the bulletin grounds the recommendations for responsible use of AI in pre-existing laws and regulations. So just to be clear, the bulletin does not propose any new laws or regulations, just provides or sets forth expectations. Section 2 gives definitions of AI-related terms. Section 3 talks about the guidance and expectations, right? So here it says it's expected that companies develop a written AI system governance program. As I mentioned, written program with certain positions laid out that are laid out in that section there. Section 4 outlines the regulatory oversight and examination considerations. So in other words, what information the departments of insurance may request during investigation or examination, right? Including the use of third-party AI systems and data. So talk about the implementation of the bulletin. So far, I mentioned the bulletin is interpretive. It's a model bulletin adopted by the NAIC. At this point in mid-October, we have 17 states that have adopted the bulletin and 4 states that have adopted related activity. And so this map here is available on NAIC.org. If you follow that link here in the slide, or I can send that link around to you if you like. We update this map monthly. And so please let us know if you'd like to be on the distribution list or like to know where you can download this. I can send this link around. So the first and primary expectation of the bulletin is that, as I mentioned, the use of AI needs to comply with insurance laws and regulations, right? So in particular, that's the Unfair Trade Practices Act, Unfair Claims Settlement Practices Act, Corporate Governance Annual Disclosure Model Act, Property and Casualty Model Rating Law, and not necessarily just property and casualty model rating law. Other states have mentioned, rating laws that really apply to health or life. But the idea here is that rates must not be excessive, inadequate, that sort of thing, and really must represent the true risk of the policyholder. And then lastly, market conduct, market surveillance model law. So second, as I mentioned, companies are expected to develop an effective written AI system governance program, according to Section 3 that I mentioned, which includes implementing effective risk management internal controls. Girish, you mentioned what you're doing at Travelers. And another main expectations is to ensure that the use of third-party AI systems also comply with insurance laws and regulations. And this is kind of a difficult thing that we're currently wrestling with, and I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So I want to talk a little bit about how can companies prepare for these expectations from the model bulletin, right? So not all states have adopted the bulletin, 17 have, an additional 4 have adopted related activity, but just generally, how can a company prepare for the provisions in the bulletin? So first, again, develop a written AI systems governance program that prioritizes transparency, fairness, and accountability in AI system design and implementation, again, according to the principles of AI, right? The governance program should ensure compliance with laws and regulations, mentioned that a couple times, and should assign accountability. So who's going to be determined to make sure that the use of AI systems comply, right? The governance program should include implementing effective risk management and internal controls, right? Documenting the identification of risk, mitigation practices, and management framework of AI systems. So basically, what efforts are being done at companies to be aware of and try to prevent, try to mitigate the risk of AI. You can't just say, okay, we developed this AI system to AI models, great, wonderful, let's implement them and wipe our hands and off we go to our next project. No, continuous monitoring, and what are you doing to mitigate maybe even unintended consequences as well. So, and with regard to third parties, this was a tough one here. Governance programs should establish due diligence process for assessing vendor-provided AI systems, right? Including appropriate terms and provisions in the contract with third parties. So this is tough, and we understand. We got a lot of feedback from industry representatives on this. But if insurance companies use AI systems, no matter if they've developed the systems internally or have obtained them externally, that use by insurance companies still needs to comply with regulatory standards. So as we're developing at the same time and finalizing the bulletin, to get a handle on whether and to the extent that insurance companies are using AI and machine learning. So I include machine learning with AI as you often see in a Venn diagram. Machine learning is part of AI. So the NIC developed and issued 3 surveys over the past few years, focusing on AI and ML as used in auto, home, and life, ML, machine learning. And so reports and executive summaries have been compiled and posted to our website at nic.org. If you like, I can send links around to show you where to get these reports. Just let me know. So our personal auto survey results were completed in December 2022. Homeowners were in August 23. Life was in December 23. And we're actually in the next month, maybe even less than a month from now, November 11th, going to be issuing the health insurance AI ML surveys as well. So we had 3 goals for the surveys. We wanted to gain a better understanding of the insurance industry's use and governance of AI. We wanted to get information that could aid in the development and guidance or give us information on how to develop an effective regulatory framework to support the insurance industry's use of AI. And 3, we wanted to inform regulators as to the current and planned business practices of insurance companies. In other words, where AI is going as far as the use. So the surveys focused on 5 things. the degree and use of AI models by insurer function, the level of the decision making, which is how much the human was in the loop, the sources of AI model development, whether and to the degree they were developed internally or externally, right? The data elements used in the models, what kind of disclosures were made to consumers, and what components were included in AI governance programs that were already established by insurance companies. So we asked a lot of questions, and we got a lot of information back from these surveys that have been really, really valuable. So when we took a look at the results, we saw very different levels of adoption of AI and machine learning within the insurance industry in these three lines that we're looking at here. Overall, 88%, so good majority, vast majority of the 193 auto writers said they currently use, plan to use, or are planning to explore using AI and machine learning within their operations. But this drops still a good majority, but still to 70% of the 194 homeowners writers. But we noticed a much bigger drop off, still a majority, but just 58% of life insurers, 161 life insurers that responded to our surveys said they currently use, plan to use, or plan to explore using AI in their operations. I do want to note that in the auto and home surveys, GLMs, generalized linear models, were excluded from the definition of AI use from auto and home. But the use of GLMs were included as far as AI in life insurers, just recognizing kind of where life insurers were in their sophistication of models. So even when you include GLMs, still it's 58% for life insurers, right? So I just want to make that note. But the responses from the surveys show that AI and machine learning was used across insurance operations, marketing, underwriting, pricing, claims, with varying but significant degree of reliance on AI systems developed by third-party vendors. And this is a bit of a surprise, but enlightening to us. And so again, if you'd like more detail, I can point you to the reports on our website, and you get all kinds of details on lots of charts and graphs on the results here. This is just a very, very high level. So one of the next steps we're taking this year is that we formed an AI systems evaluations group. Initially, that was formed as a collaborative forum to bring together perspectives from regulators across NAIC working groups. The group is set up to identify existing resources that will help regulators review AI systems used by insurance companies, develop new regulatory guidance needed to perform reviews of AI systems, including insurers' AI governance program, right? So how do you review the governance program? How to review the effectiveness? And then to draft standards for regulators to use when evaluating the insurer use of AI. So in this group, we're looking at what has already been developed by other working groups at NAIC, such as the Accelerated Underwriting Working Group. They recently put out regulatory guidance on the use of automated life insurance underwriting. And of course, the Big Data and AI Working Group cast this regulatory review of predictive models white paper, mostly focusing on GLMs. But here we're discussing what new tools might need to be developed at the NAIC to help regulators assess the extent that AI is being used, where and how to assess potential risk, and then assess an insurance governance program as well. So basically, the idea is we want to develop tools and a procedure for how to examine the use of AI. Right? Then I want to move on and now talk about another thing, a major effort that we're working on this year is that we formed a third-party data and models task force. And so this effort came about, like I mentioned, from the results of the surveys where we saw the extent of AI models and services that are being sourced from third parties. It was a little over 50% in the life surveys that we saw, and then also significant in the P&C surveys as well. So this task force is charged with proposing a framework for the oversight of third-party data and models, because the insurance regulatory system in the U.S. does not have direct authority over non-insurance entities, right? And so we want to set up an efficient way to ensure AI systems provided by third parties that are used by insurance companies comply with insurance laws and regulations, right? So just how do we do that? And that's, as you can imagine, that's quite challenging. Our work plan is that this year we're researching and deciding on the general framework for oversight of third-party systems. So we're looking into frameworks, looking at other components of other frameworks that might be relevant, like the review of CAT models, or so we're looking at Solvency II. We've looked at to see, okay, maybe not necessarily directly AI-related regulatory frameworks, but we're looking at the components of these frameworks that might be applicable and helpful to bring together to say, okay, how can we create a third-party regulatory framework that would work efficiently? So it's quite a difficult task here. So then next year we'll put together the third party. We'll actually put together the third-party AI framework. So look forward to that next year. We're making progress on that, but it's slow going. There's a lot to think about. We want to get it right. And just to let you know, if you want to follow the work of these working groups, then please shoot me an email. Let me know. I can put you on the list of interested parties to follow the work and attend the meetings, give us feedback. Certainly, we welcome that. We need good feedback on this. So I want to close here, kind of to wrap up and talk a little bit about kind of the challenges. I talked about it a little bit, but the NAIC and state regulators, are facing really some big challenges trying to regulate AI. It's fun and exciting, but it's quite challenging. So it's not an easy thing to do, as you can imagine. AI is fast growing, fast evolving, morphing. From Girish, we're hearing about fun, cool, great, exciting ways of using AI that will reduce expenses and show a lot of great benefits. So, we're excited about that. But we also recognize it could come with risks as well, risks of bias, risks of misuse, that sort of thing. But so, our overall goals are consumer protection and encouraging innovation, right? We know that AI, other technologies that I've mentioned, come before it, can improve the health of the insurance industry all the way around, right? With more accurate risk-based pricing, reduce expenses, increase efficiencies, all great. And AI is no different than other past technological innovations. Think of the introduction of GLMs many years ago. And if you're not familiar with these type models, really huge improvements on the way actuaries would go about rate making. But what makes AI and machine learning different, or at least different enough to warrant different kinds of regulatory attention or increased heightened attention, is just the lack of transparency. And also think about the risk of the lack of human in the loop, right? It's so easy to look at the results of Gen AI or look at the results of machine learning and trust it and move on. And these are wonderful technologies, incredible, powerful algorithms that help you do your work a little more easier, and your tendencies kind of maybe move on and trust it. But we still need to make sure the human is in the loop sufficiently, right? So, in other words, the potential increased trust and decreased human involvement in making important decisions affecting policyholders. We want to just be aware of that and make sure that expert humans are still in the loop protecting consumers. So same concerns we've always had: unfair trade practices, unfair discrimination, and so on. There's nothing new, but just unintended consequences of using AI that could result in, lack of fair access to insurance. Again, trusting AI and making decisions without that expert human in the loop. I've said that a couple of times. It's just very important to us. We just want to stay on top of that. And the use of AI systems provided by third parties is another challenge. I've mentioned that a couple of times. Insurance companies are responsible for compliance with insurance laws and regulations, right? Third-party AI systems vary from services like, well, you could really say Grammarly is third-party AI system used by insurance companies, right? Chatbots to sophisticated risk scoring algorithms, image analysis like Girish showed, and helping to streamline and automate decision-making in general, summarizing documents, right? All representing, automation and hopefully decreased expenses. But we want to, of course, make sure that's still accurate as well. And so vendors providing these services, right, range from insurtechs working in the insurance industry, right, to Google and Facebook for marketing, right, for example, that insurance companies might use, which is, of course, those are not, insurtech companies. So how do you get insurance companies to play play on a fair and level playing field, right? And enable their use of third-party AI systems comply with regulations, right? So that's kind of a challenge I've mentioned a few times here. Insurance companies just do not have the ability to tailor contracts and agreements, review the AI systems, get into the data. They may not get the transparency they'd like to have. And so our third-party data and models task force is working on, just trying to come up with effective regulatory framework to review these third-party systems. So, big challenge for us. But underlying all this, we all have a challenge in the insurance industry, the NAIC, regulators, insurance companies, in that protected class data is just not available, right? How do you measure bias, right? How do you measure that your implications of AI are having a disparate impact, right? How do you measure unfair discrimination, right? It's difficult when you don't have this data. So insurance companies just, they just don't collect this data. So how can effective tests be developed? So we're looking at right now, we're looking at the BIFSG method as the best method that we've come across so far. We are open to looking at other methods. The BIFSG method has shown to be effective in inferring ethnicity and race to some degree. And then the question, it could be an acceptable method used, but the question is, how acceptable, how accurate are the results? So we're looking into that to see if it could be used at least as a first start to help us regulate this as we move forward. We've got to take small steps as we go. So that's going to take a bit of study. So we've got a bit of work ahead of us. We're trying to keep up with the development of use of AI. We want to encourage innovation. We recognize the risks. We just want to make sure we get it right. So let me close and thank you. That concludes my presentation on what the NAIC is working on and trying to develop effective AI regulation, trying to stay on top of the innovations about preserving the benefits, and hopefully give you a sense of the challenges that not just the NAIC is having, but the insurance industry as a whole faces in making sure the use of AI does not cause harm to the consumers. Nobody really wants that directly or indirectly. So again, if you want to follow the progress of our working groups, send me your email, let me know. I'll get you added to the interested party lists, join in our meetings, provide your feedback. We would benefit from your perspectives as well. So just helping us with better policymaking decisions. Well, thank you for my time. And now let me turn it on over to Dr. Leah Marsal. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott. I was looking over my slides this morning and realized that I could probably talk for an hour. But I am going to hold myself to 10 minutes because I'm very excited to hear from Franco as well. So I'm going to share my slides with you, and I am going to try and stick very carefully to my slides in the interest of time, but I have so much more that I could say, and hopefully that will come out during the question and answer session after Franco speaks. So my comments are really general and not specific to the insurance agency, but I think we can we can draw some conclusions that might be applicable to a number of industries. Sorry, let's see. I didn't mean to advance my slide. So my name is Leah, and what I'm here to do is to talk about two large-scale studies that look at the impact of generative AI on labor productivity, on customer service agents, and Boston Consulting Group consultants. First, a little bit of background. I think it's far too early for anyone, any labor economist, to tell you how AI is going to impact the US labor market. And that's really because these models are, incredibly recent, right? ChatGPT version 3.5 was released less than 2 years ago. But I want to assure everyone that the US isn't running out of jobs and we're not running out of work to be done. And I view generative AI as a way to really cope with sustained labor scarcity in the US that's coming from an aging population with declining birth rates and reduced immigration. AI is very unlike, I think, prior waves of technological change because AI is a tool that lowers the cost of cognitive tasks. So AI is incredibly helpful with brainstorming, research, coding, data analysis, and report writing, and all kinds of other tasks. Now, the initial research is really coalescing around this major finding, which is that AI raises the relative labor productivity of lesser skilled and lesser experienced white collar knowledge workers. Sorry, I didn't mean for my slide to advance here. So, why kind of intuitively would we expect to find this? Well, really, these large language models like ChatGPT are summarizing existing human knowledge. So, domain knowledge experts are much closer to the frontier of human knowledge, and so they're going to benefit less from using LLMs compared with novices. So the first study is a neighbor study, and it looked at the deployment of AI with 5,179 customer support agents that are working for a US business process software company. And these customer support agents were given access to AI. And that AI was a recent GPT with machine learning algorithms that focus on excellent customer service interactions. And the intention here was to capture and disseminate the pattern of behavior that was displayed by the most productive customer support agents. So what the AI was doing is it was monitoring the chat and providing the agents with real-time suggested responses that the agents could then use or ignore. And I want to emphasize here that, being a customer support agent is a tough job because it requires detailed product knowledge, excellent problem-solving skills, and the ability to really deal with frustrated customers. So, customer service support agents, they're not paid a lot of money. And the range, the range in their skill set can be quite wide. So the overall finding here is that access to AI raised the labor productivity of these customer service agents. And on average, uh, customer issues that were resolved per hour increased by 14%. But this average is really masking the fact that there was a 34% increase in productivity for newly hired and lower skilled workers with no impact on highly experienced and skilled workers. This study also found that access to AI was reducing the worker turnover and it improved the customer sentiment. So it's possible that, with reducing the workers' turnover, that AI might be completing the most kind of tedious routine work and improving the psychological experience of work. So, again, this is a large study, but it's an initial finding. And we really can't know if these firms are going to respond by hiring more low-skilled agents, or will they require less skill and experience when they hire? Or will these firms seek to completely automate these lower skilled workers' jobs as AI models improve? Sorry, I'm not sure why my slides keep advancing. The second study I wanted to briefly describe is with a very highly educated group of people. Many of these Boston Consulting Group consultants, they have MBAs and PhDs. And a Harvard Business School study worked with them and gave them two experiments. So the first experiment was giving them tasks that would be within the frontier of AI's capabilities. And the second set of experiments was giving these consultant tasks that would lie outside the frontier of AI capabilities. And in this first experiment, consultants that were completing within these AI frontier capability tasks were asked to conceptualize and develop new product ideas. So the finding was that access to AI raised labor productivity substantially. So the AI assisted consultants' work was judged to be 40% higher in quality. And there was a 43% performance gain for the bottom half consultants compared with only a 17% gain in the top half skill consultants. And I think if you look at this diagram right here, what you can see is, sorry, I'm not sure why my slides keep advancing. I apologize. But I think one thing that's really interesting to see here, right, is the bottom half skilled participants. When you give them access to AI, right, they they produce better quality work than the top half skilled consultants without AI. So, so again, what we're really finding from a lot of these studies is a leveling up of lesser skilled and lesser experienced workers. All right. So the final piece of this study is where the experiment was where consultants were completing tasks that would lay outside the frontier of AI capabilities. And those tasks involve solving an existing business case where the interpretation of a spreadsheet of data really need to be altered by consideration of interviews with customers and top managers. So it wasn't going to be enough just to analyze this spreadsheet. And in this case, maybe not surprisingly, AI-assisted consultants were 19% less likely to find correct solutions. But there were some consultants using AI who bucked this trend, right? So of those who were still able to answer the case correctly, many of them succeeded by kind of constantly checking and refining the AI's responses. And the study's authors deemed these consultants as cyborgs. And then other consultants that successfully use the AI were deemed as centaurs because they were able to really separate the tasks that they would complete versus the tasks that the AI would complete. But I think this, really brings, to the forefront questions about how are firms going to adopt this technology, right? So, we really need to understand what is the capability of AI, what kinds of tasks is AI going to be helpful, and what kinds of tasks is it going to be hurtful, and how are workers best going to learn how to collaborate with AI. I think organizations are really going to have to grapple with these issues before they adopt it. All right, so briefly, just thinking about what are the possible aggregate impacts, what kind of conclusions can we draw from studies like these? Well, one possibility, right, is that AI is really allowing mid-skilled workers to complete the work of more highly skilled, expensive workers. So, for example, nurse practitioners with AI support may be able to complete very complex tasks that would previously be done by, a highly skilled and very expensive physician. And if you think about the US, we're spending about 23% of our GDP on healthcare and educational services. So if AI-assisted workers in healthcare and education become more productive, it's going to lower the costs for everyone. So in the long run, labor productivity gains should benefit everyone, right? We should all experience reduced costs for products and services from this, dividend of greater labor productivity, and that's going to make us all richer. Furthermore, AI might fuel innovation in product variety and customization, which would make all of our lives better. That's the long run. But in the short run, there could be some pain, right? Because technology tends to create winners and losers. So, for example, if AI allows mid-skilled level workers to replace more highly skilled workers, then it may be that some of these very highly educated workers are unemployed or they're earning less than they expected when they enrolled into very expensive colleges and university. But I do want to say that I don't think AI is going to cause massive unemployment. The US has seen decades of technological progress, and there has been no upward trend in unemployment. So I do think that AI is going to change the mix of jobs, but on balance, the increase and the new jobs that are created from this technology will outweigh the reduction in old jobs. So, kind of my final bullet point here, how I'm thinking for myself. My next steps are going to be to complete the 10-hour Google AI Essentials course in Coursera for $49 with the goal of really stepping back and thinking about my own job as, really a bunch of tasks that I complete. And so, ideally, I'd like to see that AI can assist me in kind of automating some of the tasks that I don't like so much in my job, and then being able to focus then on the tasks that I really enjoy. And furthermore, if there is a large, if I experience a large increase in my own productivity, then I might enjoy some of those dividends by perhaps spending a little bit more time gardening or hiking in the Eastern Sierras. So my last slide, which seems to have disappeared, are references for my talk. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop my share and hand it over to Franco, my colleague at CSUN.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to share my slides here. Let me know if you can see them correctly. Okay. So I go by Franco, but my name is Francisco. And as Leo was mentioning, we're co-workers. So what I want to talk briefly, just like a few of the ideas that I've thought of based on what research has shown of what can we expect in the insurance industry. I think there will be more autonomous equipment. There will be since there's an increasing number of connected devices, there's going to be an avalanche of data. And so insurance companies as well as health providers would need to figure out how to deal with this massive amount of data. As Girish was pointing out earlier, we expect AI to help different processes to become automated, underwriting, pricing, and claims processing. I think that's going to suffer massively from these tools in that it's going to evolve as agents and other parties in the industry will start using these tools more. Now, what I want to talk more about is about how the insurance companies are going to be impacted in how they may hire new talent. So this is one of the focuses of what I want to talk about. So what are we observing in colleges is that first off, there's, as Leo's pointed out, like there's not enough data points in time to assess in full, like what is the impact that generative AI will have. It's very recent. But what we know is that we can automate repetitive tasks. So one of the things that not only me, but people like Jensen Huang from NVIDIA think is that expertise of domain is going to become more important than anything else. So knowing your field. And within these tasks that are going to be important, I think I coincide with Leah, as she mentioned earlier, that critical thinking, problem solving, attention to detail, creativity are going to become more important than knowing specific skills like Python, Excel, econometrics. this is going to be something that I think AI will make it smoother to manage this type of tools. So there will be less time required to perfect your mastery on dominating these tools. But I think other soft skills are going to become way more important than knowing a specific skill. What's happening in education? Well, we can expect AI to help become an equalizer. It can also have negative sides. So one of the things that it can help is, and AI has been there around for years, for decades now. It's just that it has become we have become aware of it because of the open source modalities of AI. But it has been there for a while and has been used a lot in developing tutoring systems, educational data mining. So we can expect this to help different segments of the demographics of different countries, especially the U.S., in changing the game, because it's going to allow people that otherwise would not have access to a tutor to have someone to have an assistant just at the hand of their cell phones. Now they can have someone that is explaining things to them. So this can level up the field for many people. It can also be bad for brain development. So this is something that we are also observing as instructors. This can be very detrimental. We already know that as the whole humanity is losing retention because of phones. We know that that's going on. But what would be the extent of the damage from AI when used not in the best way possible, like by just getting people to use shortcuts? We don't know, but I do expect that people that abuse these tools will not have all the skills that we're talking about earlier, about problem solving, attention to detail, creativity. That's going to be a loss for many people if these tools are not used correctly. Colleges are having, just like the insurance industry, with like fake claims. Like I was thinking about that, as Girish was pointing out. We're having also that issue about students submitting fake reports, fake tests, cheating their way through tests. So this is becoming an increasing challenge, and I think this is going to change how people are going to hire in the future. We do know, and these are actually, like this study. I think this is the one on the bottom that I'm quoting. I think that's very likely the same study that Leah was bringing up. I'm pointing here to another recent study about how to use what the use of ChatGPT has. What is its impact? And yes, we see that the people that gain the most are the ones in the lower end of the distribution. But let's remember that this is so far using ChatGPT 3 and ChatGPT 4. Most recently, there's a new version that what it does, it's a little slower, but it breaks tasks into steps and it simulates reasoning. And so I think this is something that where it brings up even more questions about who in the distribution is going to be affected the most. These are a few of the results from OpenAI about ChatGPT 01, the most right column. And if you notice, like it compares to how like 01 in terms of questions that are PhD level, it actually does better than an expert human. Now, would this replace the expert human? I doubt it, because or the lesser expert ones. Why? Because we still cannot replicate initiative through AI. Initiative is brought out by desire, and machines do not have desire. So we still need someone that is behind the steering wheel, letting know the assistant, the expert assistant, what to do. And that's where I think that there's going to be gains for both. And I think this result in this slide is actually exciting for everyone that is an expert in a field. You will gain access um, to very expert assistants at a very cheap cost to help you improve the quality of your work. And it's going to also help those in the lower end. This is how proficient the new version has become compared to the last one. So this can also help us understand the different, like how the results might change over time from what the studies that we saw recently. Like this is how better off our is O1 at answering specific questions. Um, it's impressive how better it has become, and it's advancing in leaps. So this is also, I think it's more than scary. I think it's exciting because it's going to level up our productivity. I think AI is like having a forklift and in a warehouse. And if you don't know how to use the forklift, you're actually putting the goods in danger, and you're putting also people in danger. So I think that creativity is something that so far has been neglected as a priority in different companies. And I think that because of time constraints, but I think that AI is going to free up a lot of time to reduce time spent on repetitive tasks, and it's going to open up the floor to use more time on creative tasks. And I think that's when I think that hiring is going to change in nature, or will need to change in nature for different for people in the industry, because people are going to be able with less skills to do the same amount of complex tasks as others. So the value of people will come from creativity, from problem solving, from critical thinking, and not so much about how to know how to do a specific task repetitively in the most efficient way. So that's basically my contribution to this talk is that I think that there's a bright side to it, bright side to AI. I also think it can bring lots of challenges, but I think it's very exciting. So that will be it for my presentation.
Franco, that was terrific. Thank you so much, and thanks to all the members of the panel. We've still got a couple of minutes, I guess, to respond to some questions. The first one, I guess I would phrase for you, Garish. I mean, we are very fortunate to have someone on our panel that has, experience well beyond the insurance industry. And if you could just comment a little bit, I mean, we won't take it personally, those of us that have spent our lives in this business. But how would you characterize us in terms of our, adoption of these technologies and that sort of stuff, and what are the challenges that we represent that may be unique over those that you faced when you were dealing in, aeronautics or trucking or that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think, and thanks for that question. And before I answer that, Ed, if you would let me just point out to what I said in the chat to Glenn. He had asked a specific question about travelers' use of off-the-shelf or custom generative AI model. I mentioned custom AI when I was talking about imagery, but
Sure.
if we do use generative AI, it's with human in the loop, governance, guardrails, all of that off the shelf for now for the stuff that I was showing earlier. As far as comparing insurance industry to aerospace or trucking, I think I'll lean towards the aerospace side. But if you see a common thread between all three, all are regulated, and even aerospace had the FAA and EASA and NASA, so you can't really be putting stuff out there without the proper governance and responsible and ethical use of AI. So I think from the standpoint of where we are in the insurance industry, from the stuff that Scott and Leah and Franco spoke about, we're at the cutting edge, but we have to do it in a responsible way in a responsible manner and with the right guardrails. And that is a very loaded statement based on what Scott explained in his talk
Sure.
and how you're managing and governing these systems. I think as you think about a big company with its governance practices, I can say for sure that I feel good about our governance practices. I showed the slide on responsible AI, but the advancement of AI in general and generative AI specifically it does challenge existing governance structures for all companies in whatever domain because as it shifts, a model of and the intent of governing also has to evolve quickly with the advancing technologies and the associated emerging risks. So
Cool.
I don't know if I answered that question, but
No, no, I think that puts it in perspective. Thinking back to my history, Scott, I was very involved in bringing in credit as a rating variable for auto back in the early 90s. And you know, reflecting on the kind of thought process within the NAIC right now. I mean, back then, credit was sort of seen as a fire that needed to be dealt with. I'm getting the impression that that there's a lot more sort of pace that's going on at the NAIC with AI right now. That there's not a view that it is a fire that needs to be dealt with, but that it's an important new technology that needs to be managed. Is that a fair characteristic, a fair reading of sort of the mood amongst the various commissioners?
Well, I was there, and I do remember when credit was introduced in the insurance industry, and certainly it's still with controversy today with some states, of course. Right. So I guess some issues will never be completely resolved and agreed to 100%. But I really liked your characterization that is a fire to be dealt with. I kind of think that that is something that is how we feel at the NAIC. We don't feel like the fire is burning down the insurance industry at this point, not in that usage of the phrase, but in that is a very, very powerful tool. It has super wonderful, fantastic benefits with fire, cooking food, but also represents danger. And we want to really recognize the power that AI can have, and we're aware that we do need to jump on some of these issues just as quick as we can. But we also do want to make sure we get it right. So it may seem like, and internally I work with the NAIC, it may seem like we're maybe taking forever. We've got feedback that, hey, the bulletin was put out in 2020. Here we are with the AI principles was out in 2020. The bulletin came out in 2023, right? So 3 years later, we've been criticized on that. But we want to make sure we get it right. We want to make sure we get all the opinions, get the right perspectives to the table to help us craft the policy-making decisions. But we also want to make the comparison that we are acting. We're trying to act. We've got a couple groups so far, lots of conversations, trying to get together the commissioners, the perspectives and the studies, hear from consumer representatives, to make the right decisions. We're trying to move as fast as we can. But we are trying to put forth regulations, and I just want to say we're working to put forth regulations, responsible regulations to encourage innovation, not be burdensome, and we're doing that faster than the federal government. Just want to put that out. State-based insurance can work a little faster than the federal government sometimes, but I don't know. Did I answer your question? We do view it as important.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, and I'm pleased that is the view from afar, but I'm very pleased to hear that's the way it looks from somebody that's right up next to it. I guess the final, and I've got one really cute question here that came in. Leah, do you suspect that AI was advancing your slides?
I'm not sure. Maybe it was trying to hurry me up so that I would be within the 10-minute framework. But
yeah, well, so the point is AI will become a cruel master.
What I would recommend to everyone though is, I've probably spent 50 to 100 hours with AI, and I will take the course to see, if it can do something more for me. But what I would encourage everyone is to engage with this technology immediately,
Yeah.
because, there's no manual on this thing. No one knows how to use it. No one really knows what it's capable of. And so, we're all going to have to learn how to use it through trial and error.
Yeah.
So that's what I would recommend.
I think the thing that really came out of the work that Franco and Leah that you guys shows, these are not marginal improvements. And they're not marginal improvements from, based upon a group of people that weren't already, sort of at the top of the class. It's making a racehorse much faster. It's really, really remarkable. At least it is to me. I mean, you taking about a BCG consultant and making them 20 or 30% more productive. I mean, these are pretty productive people already.
Right.
It's really quite amazing. And I think Franco was alluding to the impact that all this is going to have on education, which of course was your recommendation immediately was that get yourself more educated in it, which I think is significant, but even more so kind of the role that it's going to play in the education system, which you and I have discussed, haven't had a chance to do it with Franco yet, just kind of how difficult it is to figure out how to weave it into your classes, which is but in any event, I really appreciate the efforts of this panel. I mean, this is a topic that could have been the topic for the entire day, not this initial discussion. So thank you guys so ever much. And what I'll do now is we're going to take a short break, and our next panel will start at the bottom of the hour. Thank you so much, you guys.
Thank
All the
you.
best. Indeed.